My birthday is on May 24, 2004, 3 years after 9/11. Unlike my family, I had never experienced life prior to the terrible terrorist attack carried out by Al Qaeda against the U.S. on September 11, 2001. But I know from that moment on, my family, along with the millions of other Arab Americans who live in the U.S., lives changed forever. From as long as I can remember, my family and I, more specifically my mother, who wears a headscarf, have faced countless encounters of discrimination, otherwise known as Islamophobia, or the irrational fear or hatred of Muslims due to their politics and culture. Growing up, my parents prioritized my development of my faith and ethnicity. I attended Medina Academy, a private school that focused on Islamic studies and Quran/Arabic. During my time at Medina Academy, I felt valued and understood by my teachers, peers, and community. We all shared a strong connection through our identity of being Muslim. Once I transferred to my local public school for the 5th grade, there was a major shift in my perspective of myself being a Muslim woman in America. I remember my constant feeling of embarrassment every time Mom picked me up or dropped me off of school because she was so obviously Muslim. It was not just my school environment that brought me these emotions towards my religion, but rather it was the result of a long-standing manifestation of Islamophobia in America. Islamophobia has been manifested throughout the history of the U.S., which has had a direct impact on the widespread normalization of anti-Muslim racism in the U.S. public school system. Our education system is deeply flawed as it discludes or misrepresents Islamic history and fails to address and accurately represent the current political and social state of Islam in America. This minimizes non-Muslim students' opportunity to learn and understand the Muslims, Islam, and Islamophobia. After the event of 9/11, publicity spread through the media and Muslims became a target group receiving hate by individuals, groups, and the government. For many students who have no personal experience knowing Muslims as human beings, the overwhelmingly negative images of Islam circulated in the popular media amount to prejudice. Due to racial biases and stereotypes, school curriculum and teachers are wrongfully portraying Muslims as being individuals to fear, terrorists, and extremists. If Islam is not incorporated in school systems, students will believe the wrong information that they see in the media and engage in this institutionalized racism towards Muslims. Academic silence may therefore lead to bigotry and prejudice from uneducated students. When Islam is discussed in schools, it is often in the context of 9/11, which condenses Muslims' vibrant history into one terrorist attack anchored by one Muslim group. 9/11 is not an accurate representation of Muslims as a whole, and it inaccurately leaves students believing that all Muslims are terrorists. Teachers must facilitate awareness and understanding of Islam through educating students about the long history behind why Muslims are viewed this way in America. This is necessary in order to break down Islamophobic biases, minimize hate, racism, and discrimination, as these ideas will impact the way non-Muslim students will interact with Muslims in the future and in their school. Certainly, the presence of Islamophobia in the U.S. public school system directly impact Muslim students, academia, and mental health. Muslim students are heavily targeted in schools solely based off their religion and appearance. Despite the lack of Islamic material incorporated in school curriculum, Islamophobic ideology is still very much present in school systems. The U.S. systematically racializes Muslims, making them the mass target of surveillance and a wide range of punitive U.S. government policies that systematically criminalize Muslims and a wide range of Muslim-looking people through the body of legislation that is race-neutral in its language, but targets and racializes these special populations in its effects. This same ideology applies to the public school system, as many schools advertise equity among all people, but realistically this does not occur. In California, we see that there are more than 55% of students who are Muslim who feel unsafe at their schools. Young Muslim students in schools are closely monitored because of their group membership and not because of their individual qualifications. Muslim students are in constant fear of going to school, speaking out in class, making friends, and participating in classwork/activities, scared that they will become these targets of bigotry, discrimination, and ignorance. Private instructional Islamophobia in schools is an extreme issue that predominantly affects Muslims who wear headscarves and immigrants who are at particular risk of being targets of bigotry, prejudice, and racialized sexism. Due to stereotypes of what a Muslim individual looks like, these groups are often marginalized at an even deeper extreme through hate speech, crime, bullying, and exclusion. Students cannot sufficiently learn and feel comfortable in a school environment if they are constantly being critiqued, judged, and discriminated by against their peers and staff. Muslim students are stigmatized and defined even before they have the opportunity to open their mouths. So they feel they need to assimilate into the dominant white culture in order to escape the scrutiny that they face. Such a crucial time of identity, Muslim students are trying to live a double life to fit with their white counterparts in order to be accepted, leaving them at risk of chronic trauma, depression, anxiety, paranoia, and substance abuse. The intense Islamophobia present in schools also affects how Muslim students perceive themselves, falling into the trap that is how the U.S. wants Muslims to be perceived. It creates internalized hatred and racism towards themselves and other Muslims. These factors, along with their constant worry on how they present themselves, can allow students to lose track of their schoolwork and their priorities. We as teachers must recognize that schools are shaped by and shape social norms, structures, and expectations. It is necessary that educators teach through a social justice-oriented curriculum in order to equip students with the critical thinking skills and knowledge that they need to recognize and understand these injustices, as well as the tools to work to remedy through them and promote collective action in order to address these complex issues and effect change. The education gained during these students' time in school will shape their identities and perception of themselves and the world around them. It is necessary that schools emphasize the importance of learning accurate information and model correct, respectful behavior, especially when dealing with a diverse student body. I pray that no other Muslim student feels the same embarrassment and discrimination I felt as a child being in public with my mother. It is necessary that public schools can implement similar structures as my private school that made me feel so proud of my incredible identity and culture. In order to live in harmony with one another and build genuine relationships, it is essential that the U.S. public school system educates and teaches teachers and young generations about the nature of this kind of prejudice in order to sustain critical consciousness, cultural competence, community building, and equity in schooling and beyond.